Remember when your parents actually let you watch explosions and gunfights during dinner time? That haunting theme music still gets under your skin. But Jonny Quest wasn't just pushing boundaries on screen. Behind the scenes, the show was so realistic it attracted FBI attention, so dangerous it traumatized voice actors, and so expensive it basically committed suicide. Today we're counting down 8 wild facts about the original Jonny Quest that'll make you realize the show was even more intense than you remember. And stick around for number 1, because the reason this cartoon only lasted 1 season might be the most tragic success story in television history. Before we jet off to Dr. Quest's compound, hit that like button and subscribe if you remember hiding behind the couch when the robot spy's red eyes scanned the screen. Now let's get started with number 8.
Captain, I have a UFO that comes and goes.
Could it be a rough sea?
No, sir. Whatever it is, it's moving at a high rate of speed.
Number 8. The FBI investigated the show's technology. Here's something that sounds like fiction, but isn't. The FBI actually contacted Hanna-Barbera to ask where designer Doug Wildey was getting his technical information. We're talking about a cartoon, a kids' show that aired right after school. And federal agents wanted to know if classified military secrets were being leaked through Saturday morning television. The problem: Wildey's designs were too accurate. His underground bases, laser cutting equipment, and surveillance systems looked like they'd been copied from defense contractor blueprints. When the FBI came knocking, Wildey had a simple answer. I didn't access any classified sources. I just reasoned it out. He'd been reading popular science and popular mechanics, studying what was publicly available about emerging technology, then extrapolating what came next. No espionage, just a designer who understood engineering well enough to predict the future. Here's what's wild. Much of what seemed impossible in 1964 exists now.
What the? An eye! Ah!
Remote surveillance? Check. Underground command centers, standard, laser cutting tools, you can buy them on Amazon. Wildey wasn't stealing military secrets, he was just 10 years ahead of everyone else, including the FBI. For kids watching at home, those designs didn't feel like science fiction, they felt real. And that realism made every danger feel that much more terrifying. Number 7. Voice actors were psychologically traumatized by the realism requirements. You remember those moments when Johnny or Haji were gasping for air in a sealed tomb, or Race Bannon was choking during a fight. Those performances weren't acted. They were endured.
You drive and I'll try to knock out their searchlights. Now hold it steady.
Voice actors like Vic Perrin and Don Messick were pushed to simulate suffocation, panic, and genuine terror. Directors demanded absolute realism, which meant actors had to put themselves into psychological states that crossed professional boundaries. Don Messick, who voiced Dr. Quest and would later become famous as Scooby-Doo, later described recording sessions where he'd finish a take and just stand there shaking. He once told a technician, "What the hell are we doing here? I feel like I just stepped into the other world." This wasn't your typical cartoon voice work where you showed up, read some lines in a funny voice, and went home. This was method acting for animation, and it left scars. The strangest part? None of this was necessary for a children's program, but the creators believed kids deserved authentic performances, even if it meant traumatizing middle-aged voice actors in the process. That commitment to realism is why Jonny Quest still feels visceral decades later. When Race Bannon screamed, you believed he was actually in danger? Because in a very real psychological sense, the actor was. Number 6. The show featured real explosions created to be destroyed in one take. Most cartoons in 1964 reused animation constantly. Same explosion, different episode. Same running sequence, different character. It saved time and money, and nobody complained because that's just how animation worked. Jonny Quest said no to all of that. The production team built physical models of bases, vehicles, and structures specifically to blow them up on camera, film the explosion from multiple angles, and then hand-draw animation over the footage to match the movement and lighting. One take, One explosion. If they didn't get it right, they had to rebuild everything and start over. This process was insanely expensive and labor-intensive, but it created something no other cartoon had. Explosions that looked and felt real because they were based on real physics, real fire, real destruction. When Dr. Zinn's base exploded, you weren't watching a cartoonist's idea of an explosion. You were watching actual reference footage of something being destroyed, then translated into animation. This wasn't just attention to detail. This was obsession. And for kids watching in 1964 who'd never seen anything like it, those explosions felt dangerous in a way that cartoons simply weren't supposed to feel. Number 5. Haji was the most dangerous character in animation history. Look at American television in 1964. Count the non-white characters in lead roles. You won't need many fingers. Now, look at Johnny Quest, and there's Haji, an Indian boy, adopted by Dr. Quest, treated as an equal member of the family, and positioned as Johnny's intellectual and spiritual equal.
Hey, Haji, that's enough! Let me down!
Would you like to come down slow or fast?
Oh, slow, please!
This was radical, dangerous even. Hanna-Barbera knew they were walking a tightrope. Network executives were nervous, sponsors were cautious, so they made a deal with 1964 America. They'd include Haji, but they'd soften him with mysticism to make him more palatable. Haji's intelligence became magic. His insights became Eastern wisdom. It was compromise dressed as exoticism, and it worked just enough to get him on screen. But here's what's remarkable. Over time, audiences saw through the veneer. Haji wasn't a magical sidekick. He was smart, brave, and essential. He saved the group as often as anyone else, and kids watching didn't see him as other. They saw him as part of the family. Number 4. Race Bannon was written as a war criminal. Race Bannon was cool. Everyone knew it. The guy who could fight, fly, shoot, and stay calm when everyone else panicked. He was the adult you wanted to be. But go back and actually watch his behavior. Race doesn't threaten. He doesn't warn. He acts immediately, violently, effectively.
This might be it. Look up ahead. That water pipe, you think you can grab it?
He was written as a government operative, likely CIA or military intelligence, whose job was protecting Dr. Quest by any means necessary. And any means included tactics that would absolutely qualify as war crimes by modern standards. The show never spelled this out explicitly, but the implication was clear. Race had done things he wasn't proud of. He carried that weight quietly, and part of his character was living with those choices while trying to be a good role model for Johnny and Haji.
Just stands there screaming!
Now it's turning that way.
This is incredibly dark territory for a kids' show, but Johnny Quest didn't flinch. Race wasn't a sanitized action hero. He was a complicated adult doing morally questionable things in service of people he cared about. For kids, he was just cool. But for adults rewatching now, Race Bannon is a character study in the cost of violence and the burden of responsibility. Pretty heavy for a cartoon that aired at 7:30 p.m. on a Friday night.
Now, my robot friend, pay attention. Approach it, examine it.
Number 3. Dr. Zinn was designed to hijack your brain using the outer limits. Dr. Zinn didn't just sound scary, he sounded familiar, like you'd heard that voice in a nightmare before. You had. Vic Perrin, who voiced Dr. Zinn, was also the control voice on The Outer Limits, the narrator who opened every episode with the
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
That show aired Monday nights and scared the absolute hell out of kids and adults alike. Then Friday night, that exact same voice was plotting world domination on Johnny Quest. This wasn't an accident. Hanna-Barbera knew exactly what they were doing. They weaponized familiarity. Your brain heard Vic Perrin's voice and instantly triggered fear responses from The Outer Limits, even if you didn't consciously realize why. Dr. Zinn didn't need elaborate schemes or monstrous appearance. He just needed to speak, and your nervous system did the rest. It was psychological warfare through casting, and it worked perfectly. 40-year-olds today still feel uneasy when they hear Perrin's voice, like some dark entity has followed them from childhood. Number 2, Bandit was a corporate Trojan horse, that lovable bulldog with a black mask. the one who made you laugh when things got too intense. Bandit wasn't there for comic relief. He was there to save the show financially. Johnny Quest was hemorrhaging money. Every episode cost a fortune because nothing was reused, nothing was cheap, and quality was non-negotiable. Hanna-Barbera needed a way to offset costs, and the answer was merchandising. Bandit was designed to be the easiest character to manufacture. Simple shape, minimal detail, instantly recognizable.
Johnny, look! Did we say Bandit cannot swim fast enough?
Plastic models, lunchboxes, stuffed toys. Bandit could be stamped onto anything and sold to kids who loved the show. And it worked. Bandit became the top-selling piece of Johnny Quest merchandise, generating revenue that kept production going even as costs spiraled. Here's the brilliant part. Nobody cared that Bandit was a calculated business decision. He was genuinely lovable. His confused expressions and clumsy heroics worked emotionally, even while working financially. Sometimes the most cynical corporate decisions accidentally create the most beloved characters. Bandit was a Trojan horse, but he was a good boy doing his best, and that's what mattered.
Yes, Race, it is a long way to Thailand, but it's the only place in the world that particular plant is known to grow. I must have a specimen to check out my formula.
Number 1. The show was too good to survive. Here's the tragedy. Johnny Quest didn't fail. It succeeded so completely that it destroyed itself. In 1964, most cartoons were made as cheaply as possible. Reuse everything, cut corners, maximize profit. The business model worked because expectations were low and kids would watch anything. Johnny Quest rejected that entire philosophy. Every episode required thousands of hand-drawn frames. Every setting was new. Every explosion was referenced from actual footage. No shortcuts, no compromises. The result? Production costs that made network executives physically ill. ABC loved the show. Critics praised it. Kids were obsessed, but the math didn't work. Each episode cost more than most shows spent on an entire season, and there was no way to offset the expense. After 26 episodes, the show stopped. Not because it wasn't good enough, because it was too good. The quality that made it legendary is exactly what killed it. Artists who worked on the show later described fighting over every single frame, arguing to preserve the realism that made Johnny Quest special, and they won those fights. Until the money ran out. That's why Johnny Quest never got dragged out over 8 seasons of declining quality. It burned bright, burned out, and left a legacy that 50 years of reboots have never matched. 26 episodes, 1 perfect season. That's all it took to create something that would outlive every cheap cartoon that played it safe. And there you have it, 8 facts about Johnny Quest that prove the show was stranger, darker, and more doomed than any of us realized while watching with our TV dinners in 1964. If you enjoyed this trip back to the compound, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the shows that defined our childhoods. Drop a comment telling us which Johnny Quest villain scared you the most. Was it Dr. Zinn, the robot spy, or something else entirely? And remember, the best adventures are the ones that take risks, even when the network accountants are screaming. Until next time, this is Retro Toonology, signing off.